The Broncos have a chance to clinch a playoff spot tomorrow when they play the Cincinnati Bengals. Will they do it? Will rain be a factor? Can Pat Surtain lock down Jamar Chase again? We're digging into all of that today on the DNVR Broncos podcast in just a couple of seconds. Welcome into the Toyota Lounge for the DNVR Broncos podcast presented by Bet365. I'm Henry Chisholm. I've got Super Bowl 50 champion Todd Davis with me. And there's a lot to talk about today, including Christmas. How was your Christmas?
Christmas is good, man. Just hung out with the fam. Made my turkey again. Delicious once again.
Wow.
Boys got
did you
bikes,
fry it?
So they were riding. No, I don't fry it. I'm not there yet, but I do put it in the oven, let it do its thing, and you know.
Wow. Well, that sounds nice. What was the best present you got?
I don't think I really got anything. You know.
Nothing?
You just buy stuff for people at this point. You know?
Oh, okay.
Love is the best present I got.
I got some new binoculars. Probably better than love.
Binoculars?
Yeah.
For like peeping or what?
No. Actually, I guess they could be if I wanted to.
Where are you using binoculars?
Every day.
That's what I'm saying, peeping.
No. Well, because you go to practice and you gotta like take attendance, and so you gotta be able to see like, oh, who's that guy way over there in the corner? And then during the game, it's like somebody gets hurt, you gotta get the binoculars out to be like, oh, what number's that?
Oh.
Sometimes
I mean,
actually,
the press box is not that far away.
bad eyes.
Oh,
Yeah.
you did say that.
He can't even drive
Yeah.
legally.
Yeah.
Well, no, I can drive legally. I just can't if I go back to the
Ride
DMV.
dirty.
Yeah, no, they're very important, and I haven't had a chance to check them out because they're kind of everything was all glittery because it's Christmas. Did that happen at your house? Where it's just glitter everywhere on Christmas?
No, we don't
No?
get the glitter wrap
Yeah,
paper.
that needs to stop.
Yeah.
I'm against that.
So who got you the goggles? Or binoculars?
Parents.
Oh, very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I've been complaining about mine for a while. So yeah, be on the lookout for me with my big binoculars, and I'll be on the lookout for everybody else
Very nice.
because I can see further. Big game against the Bengals. I want to start with this though. The Broncos have a chance to go to the playoffs, which is obviously huge.
Yep.
And we all really want it to happen. We all really want to see them go to the playoffs. I'm curious how much changes if they go to the playoffs versus if they don't. Whether it's like this offseason with the moves they make, whether it's how they perform the next couple of years. But how if they just go and they get blown out by Buffalo, is that really any different than just not going at all?
Yeah, I think it is. I think there is a mental hurdle that comes with sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I think year after year of not making the playoffs and not being good enough, I think just being able to know that we are a playoff caliber team. So going into the next year, that's like the minimum.
Yeah.
As far for this year, that was like the absolute maximum. Make it to the playoffs. You guys did a phenomenal job with the roster and the talent you had. You guys exceeded all expectations if you just make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Now, if you do make the playoffs, that means next year is like, no matter what, we're making the playoffs.
You have to.
And then you're going on to see what more you could do. So I think it's, the mental aspect behind getting over that next hurdle. That's super important for this team.
And I used to use the Lions as an example of a team that didn't really take steps to getting better. They kind of just got really good.
They took steps though.
But now you look back and it really was more steps. So they were
Yeah.
3-13 that first Dan Campbell year.
Yep.
And then so that's the next year they go 9-8, winning record, miss the playoffs.
Yep.
Year after that, they're Super Bowl contenders.
Yep.
So you went 18 months from the start of one season to the next time around, and all of a sudden this is one of the best teams in the NFL. That's really quick. It isn't like this long, sustained building process that finally gets you there. But then looking at it now, this really is the year that they've kind of hit that peak. Because now they have all the pieces, and the injuries and stuff might mean that they can't actually win the Super Bowl. So maybe there is more to them following the steps process than I gave them credit for, going from 3-13 to 9-8 to the deep playoff run, to now having a chance to potentially win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's 4 years.
Yeah.
And I think we're on year 2, similar to them. I hope we'll be better than 9-8, but
9-8 and barely missed the playoffs.
but like that's where we're all at in this progression. So next year, you're thinking, okay, let's make a deep playoff push. Year after that, all right, it's time to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think it does matter too. The Texans are another example, though. I think they're kind of interesting. They were 3-13 also. I think both teams actually 3-13-1. And last year, obviously, they take the big jump to going 10-7, winning the playoff game. This year, though, like they're 9-7. They're going to make the playoffs because they're in such a bad division. But they've kind of they aren't moving upward anymore. The trajectory seems to have changed a little bit.
I think they're still moving upward. I think they just got caught in a situation where second-year quarterback, sophomore slump is a real thing, and then just your weapons weren't as healthy as you wanted them to be this year. Talking about Take Dale, Stephon Diggs, like two pieces you thought were going to be huge pieces to your puzzle. Defense is still solid.
Yep.
So I think they're just a healthy roster away from being 10-7 or better.
Yeah, I think what scares me there is that sophomore slump. Because one of the things coaches always say is like growth isn't linear. Like there's kind of the ups and downs, and you take 2 steps forward and you take a step back. And I would really like to see them make the playoffs this year because that little step backward just becomes a little bit more palatable. You hope that they make the deep run and all that, but if something goes wrong, they wind up with a year where they're injured, they only win 8 games. At least you get to say, hey, we made the playoffs last year. It's a sophomore slump. And that's how the Texans feel.
Yeah.
The Texans, they know they've got some bad breaks, and they'll obviously try to go on a run in the playoffs, do all those sorts of things. But they can kind of hang their hat on last year and say, we are the Texans. We just need to add a couple pieces or get healthy. Whereas if they hadn't made the playoffs last year, you'd be saying, well, C.J. Stroud really hasn't proven anything. Like, you are trying to build for more. So I think the playoffs, an appearance would help because you get to say we're building toward this next step, and it makes you think that it's possible. But also it just makes it so much more palatable if there is a step back, which hopefully there just isn't.
Yeah, and then, a small step back is okay.
Yeah.
Like what C.J. Stroud is doing this year, he just went crazy last year.
He did.
And now he's just having
He's
okay
good.
season.
Yeah.
He's good. And I think they're still going to make the playoffs. They're still going to win their division. Like they're in a very good spot for any team. And even if it is his sophomore slump, like next year, there's no reason why we don't make the playoffs back-to-back years. Like I think it's important for us to do it this year and see where it goes. And who I know sophomore slumps are a real thing, but who says Bo has to have one?
There's definitely no guarantee.
So
yeah,
you can just keep getting better. I don't know if Mahomes really
Joe Burrow
had one.
didn't.
He just kept getting
Mahomes
better.
didn't.
So
yeah,
let's just hope for one of those trajectories.
Yeah, it would just be so much more. It would be easier to see that path. Because you always talk about like the rookie contract windows for quarterbacks because that's when they're cheap. And there are very few quarterbacks who've ever gotten a big contract and went on to actually win a Super Bowl or even
they
go.
pay him too much.
It's just a bad plan. Like you give all your money to Tagovailoa because he's a good quarterback. You'd be a lot worse without him. But when you spend all that money there, you just can't go get all the pieces you need to win. And there's plenty of examples of that. And the only exceptions are Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady.
Yep.
So hopefully it's like a big 3 going forward, and it's Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix. If that doesn't happen, things get a lot tougher once you get to a few years down the line. So to be able to say year 1 playoffs, year 2 make a bit of a run. I mean, you might even be saying like the window's opening next year if you're able to get this done. That's what the Texans fans thought, and you'd really just have those next 3 years. Where you can say we're off and running, we have all we need. The quarterback's getting better. We're improving. We're no longer tearing down like we've had to because of the Russ trade with all the picks we had to get rid of, and then the cap hits. So yeah, I mean, it'd be really nice to get this one. It reminds me a little bit actually of the when the Broncos got Russ. One of the thoughts at the time was that first year with Russ, you have to make the playoffs. Because he's already so far along in his career. If that first year you aren't a playoff team, how could you get so much better in those next few years while his contract is getting bigger and while he's aging and while you still don't have draft picks to get any better, that you just had to make the playoffs that year so that climb wasn't as big?
Well, I forget what their record was the year before that, but you would think Russell Wilson and all he was able to do, I mean, that's a 3 or 4 win more quarterback.
Totally.
So I understand why everybody thought that it was like playoffs or bust, and it makes sense. He wasn't a young quarterback; he was a veteran quarterback. He had already won a Super Bowl. He had been there twice. He knew what it took to win. That's somebody you bring in because we're trying to win now.
Yep.
You know, but didn't work out. It's okay.
Sure didn't.
Now we're on to new and better things.
Much better.
And we're all believers, right?
Yes, we are all believers. Where's No-Sean at with that? I didn't watch the post game. Is he bought in yet?
What?
Is No-Sean a believer?
Yeah, I would say yeah.
Okay.
You know, I think he is.
Little steps.
This is progression, trajectory.
Yeah, progression, just like Bo. It's going to be a rainy game. Well, that's what Sean said. The weather forecasts disagree just a little bit with Sean, but I'm curious what you think about that.
You think Sean doesn't know more than the weather forecast?
That's exactly what I thought.
Controls the weather.
That's what you would think. And like the NFL or the Broncos, they should have so much better information than the rest of us.
Yes.
But they also didn't know it was going to rain for the Jets game.
Well,
they said they were shocked. So I don't know what to do with that. But we're going to get into that rain or potentially get into that rain here in a second. First, though, got to give a shout out to our friends over at Live Well. The holidays. Are the holidays over? No, I guess there's one more. That's kind of the last one we count in the stretch is New Year's. But I guess New Year's would be a lot more fun with Live Well. What wouldn't be? But as the holidays come to a close, maybe you just need to sit back, relax, and Live Well would like to help you do that. Live Well Cannabis Store strives to make cannabis accessible to all because they believe everyone deserves to live well. They have 25 convenient Colorado dispensary locations with a premium selection and expert service that await you. Their knowledgeable, supportive staff are here to help you on your journey. Visit a Live Well dispensary to learn more about their wide selection of cannabis flower, edibles, concentrates, and more. Live Well proudly offers a price match guarantee, ensuring you get the best value by matching local competitors' prices on eligible products. Visit livewell.com today to reserve your products online for a quick in-store pickup. Mention the code DNVR25 in the store and you'll get 25% off one regular price item. Restrictions apply.
And we got to give a huge shout out to our friends over at Verizon. If you're tired of your phone bill draining your bank account and you wish you could use that money for something more fun and exciting, well, Verizon, they feel your pain. For a limited time, new customers can get up to $800 in a prepaid MasterCard to pay off your current smartphone loan when you switch. Again, that's $800. After Christmas, there's a lot of sales going on. $800 could go a really long way right now. Trying to hit up Amazon or even the mall.
Yeah.
$800 would be really good to have right now. You can just trade in any phone from their top brands with select unlimited plans. Verizon gives you the 5G network to power your entire day, and they've even got you covered with their award-winning network performance. This deal won't last long, so don't get stuck on the bench. Again, it's $800. Switch to Verizon today and take control of your game plan. Visit your local Verizon store for details.
Okay, reminder. Presented by Bet365. This is the Toyota Lounge. I have one more question about the whole big picture playoff thing before we move on. Do you think the plans for this offseason in terms of like free agency or the draft changes based on whether you make the playoffs or not? Because it seems like you're probably running back with the secondary. You know, maybe a tough decision on DJ Jones, but you kind of have your group there.
No, I think no matter what, you're building for the future. I mean, just like the Lions missed the playoffs at 9-8.
Yep.
You don't change. I think you still feel like we're on a good pace or on a good track to be a successful team. So I think no matter what, you go get a couple more pieces for Bo, pick up some players in the draft. We now know that they're not going to probably focus on the O-line, so just means you go and get weapons. Defense seemed pretty solid. You kind of run it back with those guys, bring in some depth. But overall, I think the plan is the same whether you make the playoffs or you're a game short. You're building this roster to be successful.
Yeah, I think so too. It doesn't mean that there are going to be big changes. You aren't all of a sudden more interested in like an Amari Cooper, an older guy, just because you were so close. I wonder if the Texans maybe got caught up in that. They might have taken like a Stephon Diggs anyway. Danielle Hunter isn't too old. He's still got plenty of juice left.
Yeah.
So it probably doesn't change all that much for this offseason. The rain, though. So what Sean said was a 50% chance of rain at kickoff, and it's going to get worse as the game goes on. Now it seems as though it's going to really hit after the game. And if anything, it's going to be kind of drizzling. But we'll see what actually happens, because if they can push the forecast one way, I'm sure they can push it right back. I'm curious what you think of the rain game.
I don't want any rain.
You don't want any rain?
I don't want any elements. I want it to be a nice sunny day.
Even going up against Joe Burrow?
Even going up against Joe Burrow. Because I feel like although Joe Burrow will be limited, if it's raining and snowing and they have to run the ball, like, we will be limited as well.
Bo did not look great against the Jets.
And I just feel like in those tough games where the weather starts to be unpredictable, you really rely on your running game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that right now. So I feel like it's best just to have nice sunny days and still try to find a running game here or there, but ultimately rely on Bo, rely on our defense, and see what we can make happen.
I'm feeling pretty good about the running game.
All
and
right.
I know I shouldn't be, because it was
not.
one good game after everything else we've seen.
You really did need those new goggles.
But I did like
Shout
a
out
breakdown
to
for the
Hank's
website.
parents.
Yes, those are going to be important. But yeah, I took like 12 of those runs, all the runs from those first two drives, and wrote about them on the website. So go check that out if you're a diehard. But it was just so pretty. Like, everything they were doing. And it didn't always work, but there'd be plays where it's like, oh, Luke Wattenberg, little mistake. Doesn't matter, because Garrett Bowles is just manhandling Khalil Mack behind the play. And so there's this massive cutback lane. You go through and watch all that, and the way it was called. We talked a little bit, it would have been like 2 weeks ago on the Inside Scoop, about that kind of the lead read option.
Yep.
That the Broncos used to run. Well, they ran that on like their third play. And it winds up being a handoff. But you have the puller coming across with Joey Bosa kind of like waiting there. And he pulls right in front, so it's a read option, but you kind of freeze Bosa. 2 plays later, they run the the split zone.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, the puller's just hitting Bosa. And so Javante's just able to cut right in behind and run for 15 yards. Like, it's just like that back-to-back play call on top of like how well they're executing. There are just so many things going well in that game. And I know the Chargers' run defense is a little bit hit or miss, but you still watch them do this to like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. I'm excited about it.
But it wasn't the fact that they could do it once or twice. They couldn't sustain it. That's the problem. And I think that's been the problem all year. We've had a couple of nice runs in games, but we haven't had, 5 or 6 runs spread out between the first through the fourth quarter. That's been the problem with our running game. Not just that they can't put together one 5-yard run, one 9-yard run.
The one 5-yard run has been tough to find, though, sometimes.
Yes.
I did forget. That was the other takeaway, though, is that second half, that running game did fall apart.
Yeah.
And part of it is because you didn't lean on it and there was no rhythm. And they were in some, as Sean said, they could have called a couple of different runs that may have fit better. But yeah, it did dry up a bit. Estime in the rain. I kind of like. He's just downhill straight ahead anyway. I want to see it.
I know. First thing I thought about was no shot, elbow up.
It gets wet in there, man.
It does get wet. Speaking of it getting wet in there,
gotta hold on tight.
The Broncos, they have big buckets of water that they just douse all the footballs in, practice with the wet balls.
Yeah.
It's crazy the lengths that they go to.
I love it.
Like, that part is, any high school would probably think that. It's going to rain on Friday. Let's get the balls wet, practice with wet balls. But they go through, and nobody's wearing a visor this week because they fog up. Every player who touches the ball, 10 sets of gloves. Change them after every drive.
Yep.
I hadn't heard of that one in particular, though. That's kind of crazy to be changing every single drive.
I mean, it's that attention to detail, man.
Yeah.
I think that's what you need to be successful. And I think there's all these little things that young head coaches or coordinators don't think about.
Yeah.
But Sean's been in the game where he only had 5 sets of gloves, and then halfway through the third quarter, guys like, hey, I can't catch the ball. So it's just all the things that he's been through has prepared him for this moment now. I think the team's going to be better for it.
I think so, too. And I think sometimes when you think of like a veteran coach who's like really good at what he does, like a genius, you think that a lot of it's going to be like very, very small things.
Yep.
Like, oh, they're running palms. Like this guy's not going to drop as far. Like you notice these sorts of details. Some of these kind of feel like big details, though. Like for example, he talked about the end zone in Cincinnati is slippery, and because it's painted very heavily. It's the orange and the black stripes, and so it's slippery. And he said there's 4 or 5 times guys have tried double moves and they've just slipped and the play's been broken this season. And that's not like a very small, like minute game planning. Like, look at this thing I picked up. It's like I could let my little sister watch these games and she'd be like, yep, they're slipping in the end zone, And so a lot of it is kind of not really the things that you would expect them to be looking for.
I think they're looking at everything.
Yeah.
Like anything that could be a competitive advantage as well as a hindrance for our team moving forward. Like maybe the other 3 coaches didn't see the double move slip or didn't know that it was going to happen, but that's just one way that we can be just a little bit better. I'm not going to call a double move in the red zone or the high red. Like I'm going to find.
Or they will after saying all week, we aren't going to do it.
Or it's a mind game. You never know.
You never know.
He's trying to prepare and look at everything. So I think that's important. Even like, because I know head coaches, they plan everything from like the game plan to like also travel schedule, meeting schedule, sleep schedule, curfew, like all these different things it's really like running a Fortune 500 company. They have so many things to dial in to ensure the player's success.
Like thinking back to that Chiefs game, the one that they should have won, I'd say the best thing Sean did all week is tell everybody they're wearing the big cleats, like the detachable cleats. Yeah, and so like, who was I talking to? I think Jaquan was saying he'd never worn them before. And so, they give them out at the beginning of the week. They wear them in practice just so they can get used because they stick so deep in the ground. They can get used to running in them. And they do it because at Kansas City, the field is apparently not a very good field. It's not the bluegrass. It's some other kind of grass, Sean was saying. And so it gets torn up really easily. Cheapos. Or they just know that that's the kind of game they want to play. But you go through that game and there's so many good things, like the way he runs the offense, the play calls. It's just kind of crazy that I think that it's not even close. The best thing that Sean did all week, the thing that helped them the most was just pick out their shoes. And that's your play caller.
You got to sweat the small things is what they say.
Yeah.
All those little details. Because, I mean, no matter how good my play design is, if my players can't run and we're slipping all over the place, it's all for naught. So all those little details have to be done correctly in order to be able to put together a good game plan and be successful. Yeah.
Do you think the wet field, does that help Jamar Chase or Pat Surtain more?
Probably neither.
Yeah, I was struggling. I've been thinking about it a lot.
I feel like it's Jamar because when you're running forward, it's a little bit easier to pay attention to where you're going. Kind of backpedaling, you're not really looking where you step. Your foot kind of slips.
Yeah.
The case against that, though, you might be right. When you're the receiver, you're running hard, you're cutting hard. Like, you really got to stick your foot in the ground. If you're Pat, so much of what they do is line up 7 yards off. He's kind of like jogging backwards and then breaks forward. At points, you're not jogging. Half the routes, though, you're kind of jogging.
Only reason why I would say it's easier for Chase is that the biggest thing for when you are playing on like a wet, slippery surface is keeping your feet underneath you. And as a receiver, I know when I'm breaking, so I know how to prepare my body to be able to withstand this break. Like I know how to keep my feet underneath me at 5 yards if I'm running a 5 yard out. For Pat, I got to mimic you and then also keep my body in prime position to break the entire time, because if I, get out of whack just a little bit, I'm on the ground and it's not a good day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be a battle. I'm curious how that one's going to go, because so a couple years ago, Pat played Jamar Chase. I can't remember the exact stat line. It was like 1 catch for 8 yards or something like that. An incredible day. Took him out of the game completely. Jamar Chase right now, he might be the best receiver in the NFL. Like he should, if you look at the numbers, he absolutely is. He's leading in catches, leading in yards, leading in touchdowns. I just have a tough time saying it's anybody but Justin Jefferson because that guy's a freak. Jamar, also a freak though. Seeing Pat go up against him, this has to be pretty easily the toughest matchup of the year. And on top of that, like, Jamar's fast.
Yeah.
Which adds a dynamic. Like, it's one thing for these big guys when Pat can kind of just smother him, take him up the sideline. you got to worry about the speed a little bit more, Jamar, which is kind of that's the piece that I worry about. That on top of all of it.
Well, were you nervous about the speed with Garrett Wilson? He's fast too, right?
He's fast, but he's not. He doesn't have all the other things.
Yeah, he
that
doesn't
Jamar
have a
has.
quarterback. He doesn't have an offensive
He
line
also
that can
doesn't have
help
that.
him.
That is true. Yeah, you were covering for 2 seconds against him.
I don't know. I think Pat's fast enough.
I think so.
I don't
too.
think like some quarters, like I think Jalen Ramsey has been fast, but I think he does better against big body receivers because, like you said, he's tall, lanky, he can smother them, and doesn't necessarily have to like open up. I think Pat's still fast enough to where he can handle his speed. But I think it's a good matchup. It's good on good for sure.
It's also the first time, it feels like the first time, at least off the top of my head, that Pat has had one of these matchups in a long time. Because it felt like right out of the gate, you're going up against, like, I guess, George Pickens, DK Metcalf. None of these guys being as good as Jamar is, but you kind of had that first, maybe in the first 8 games, there were 6 or 7 of those alpha type receivers that he was locking down. That's kind of dried up recently. And so flipping him back into that mode, I'm curious to see what he does. This game might be for Defensive Player of the Year. If he does it against Jamar Chase, who's likely going to win the Triple Crown, like, what more do you need to see?
Yeah. But you know, they always hesitate, or they're hesitant to give it to DBs, so I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe he needs a pick too. He has to have a pick, maybe.
What if Nick Bonito has another pick and 2 more sacks? Does that put him ahead of Pat, even if Pat shuts down Jamar?
It's tough with Nick and Pat. Nick, because he doesn't have the name recognition, but he does play the position that typically wins, and he gets sacks, which are easy to count. And Pat is just a corner. It's tough for me to get a gauge on who's going to win.
Yeah.
If it's a Bronco.
It's 50-50. If Pat gets an interception
Against Chase, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if Nick gets a sack and interception, like, then it's just a coin flip.
Yeah. And then obviously they've got T. Higgins there too, which is kind of that's what makes it so tough to defend. Because as much as you probably say, let's just put Pat on Jamar, you still have to worry about T. Higgins.
You do.
And it would make it a little bit easier to say, Pat, you can just stay on your side because you got 2 great receivers either way. Is that tempting at all? Or do you just say they've got the best receiver in the NFL, we've got to do it?
Yeah, I mean, T. Higgins is nice, but right now they're not on the same level. Not even in the same atmosphere.
Also, Moss is back, so that makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, Jamar Chase is definitely the #1 receiver. And although I think Riley Moss can cover him, I'd much rather just have him follow T. Higgins all day. So seems like good on good, and then on the other side it would be good on good. Like, feels like a good matchup all the way around. And then just keep the safeties deep.
Yep.
Let them know they have help. And I think we'll be solid. Like, we don't have to overthink it.
Yep. You worry at all about Riley coming back after he's just been gone for a month?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve, you know what I'm saying? When you're coming back from injury and just getting your mind back into it, getting your body back right, actually going out and playing 70 plays as opposed to, like, practicing.
You rarely got hurt.
Yeah.
Did you have... What was the longest that you came back from in that season?
Well, I tore my calf
Yeah.
in training camp, and then I didn't come back until the 3rd game of the season. So that was like from nothing to the start. But
yeah.
that's
Did you
the
feel like
longest.
yourself right away?
Heck no. It took me a couple games because it's like you get thrown. I'm thrown into games. I'm not thrown into practice. Like, I'm getting right into the game, and so I feel like I didn't hit my stride and actually play well until like the 3rd game of the season. And then when I went on to have the most tackles I had in my career, even though I missed the first 2 games. But it just took me a minute to get started.
You'd think it'd be a little bit easier for Riley since he at least played in games.
Yeah, he's coming back from playing. Yeah,
It's
so he should be
also
good.
T. Higgins has been struggling with the hamstring all year long.
True.
So there's a little bit of even matchup there too. Like, you're not getting a fully healthy T. Higgins.
That is true. Yeah, T. Higgins currently 11th in the NFL in yards per game, which is a little bit scary. We've got more to talk about. We're going to set up some bets, actually. So first, might as well give a shout-out to our favorite betting partner, Bet365. Bet365 is awesome for so many reasons. It's one of those things, you're up in Montana, you don't get to hang out with our friends over at Bet365. let's see. Oh, Navy's playing right now. I did make a little bet on Navy. I decided that for all of these bowl games, you just go with the underdogs. The underdog's been winning so far. They've been a lot of crazy games, calling them 4 overtime, 5 overtime, 6 overtime, when really they're just running one play at a time. But Bet365 is awesome. Going to be a big night tonight. They are an official partner of the Nuggets and the Avalanche, which is cool because the Nuggets and the Avalanche both play tonight. Nuggets against the Cavs. One of the best teams in the NBA this year. All sorts of reasons to choose them. 10,000 boosts every month. We pick out our own boosts. A bunch of cool stuff. And if you want to sign up, you can use the code DNVR365 and you can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Please gamble responsibly. If you or somebody who has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And if you guys are looking for new floors in your home or business, you guys got to check out Empire Today. Empire Today redid our floors almost about a year ago now, and they still look like they're in really good shape, really good condition, and they get used a lot. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of people sitting on these chairs and moving them around, so these floors are very sturdy and can withstand the test of time. And with Empire Today, you get shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. The great thing about them is they have a virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. You just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your own room. And it's great because, you can go to the showroom, things can look awesome, but it's nothing like seeing it in your house with your lights, with your cabinets, with your walls, being able to understand, really how it's going to function in your space. And right now, you can schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code DNVR. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DNVR for details.
All right. Reminder that this podcast is presented by Bet365. Let's build this parlay first.
Parlay.
So you guys know the deal. We've been doing this for a couple weeks now. Everybody's going to pick.
I'm just saying mine always hits. I don't know if the parlay.
That's right. I'm not sure if mine
hits,
hit last week. I forgot. No, it didn't. I had 90 court receiving yards, and he didn't quite do it. I blame him, not me.
I mean,
it's fair. Okay.
Who wants to blame himself, right?
Yes, I agree. Oh, these are tough. Would people hate me if I took the under on Bo's passing yards? They
Absolutely.
Would. Let's not mess with that.
Do what you're gonna do. You
know what? Let's just do it. Under 233.5.
Wow.
That's a big number.
Wow.
It's a big number. And it's going to probably be rainy. The passing game hasn't quite clicked recently. Instead of betting on the running backs to run the ball well, I'm just going to say it. They're going to run the ball a lot. And that means Bo's not going to throw the ball too much. And it's rainy. So give me the under. This is going to make people mad at me again.
The whole time we've been wondering if Noshawn was a believer, but we maybe need to ask if Henry is a believer.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? It's up in the air.
What are you thinking, Todd?
I'm actually going to go with I guess it's a passing stat. Marvin Mims. He has 62 yards last week.
He did.
For 50 yards, it's plus 325 right now. So I think Marvin Mims is going to be a huge problem. I mean, this is like the worst defense in the NFL, hands down.
Yep.
If we can't put up big numbers against them, I'm taking the overs on everybody's passing yards. Court, Mims, Vele, I'm doing Marvin Mims, 50 yards, plus 325, 50 yards or more.
I like it. Even though I did just bet the under on passing yards.
Yeah,
but that's the thing, though.
That still gives...
Since they're not correlated, the odds will go way up because of it. Yeah. We like a uncorrelated parlay. What do you have back there, you hear?
So I was going to be mean and say that it was Zach's pick, but I'm just going to do it for him, and it's my pick. I'm going to put Courtland Sutton first touchdown.
Ooh.
I think they're going to want to try to get him rolling early. I think Bo's going to try to go back to the safety blanket, and I think that's going to be the reason why Court gets the first touchdown.
I like it.
Let's
10
do
to
it.
1 odds. Let's see if I can get
thou
these
wow plus a thou wow
totals up. Oh, you got already? 12,000. Wow.
Wow.
So bet $1, win 120. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. That's a good deal. Let's see if we can make it happen.
I'm gonna bet it.
I really like that. I think those odds are great. I'm gonna put too much money on that. All right, we gotta get into our picks of the game. How do you see this one playing out?
See, this one's like a little bit more of a shootout than I want it to be, but I hope the weather's good enough for us to go out there and score points. I'm going to say that the Broncos win 34-31.
Oof. I'm going to go. I've got to take the Bengals. I don't like doing it. I picked the Broncos for like 8 straight weeks, though. And the magic isn't quite there. I was riding that run for a little bit.
Wow.
Give me the Bengals. Am I thinking field goals? No. Yeah, I am. I'm feeling field goals. Give me 19-13. It's going to be a fun one in the rain.
Dang.
I already have Zach's pick as well, and he is going with 20-21 Bengals.
Bengals win?
Bengals win. That's what he has.
Wow, he's been believing in the Broncos since was that week 10. Now
He's not believing anymore.
So he's saying that the only shot we have to make the playoffs is beating the backups of the Chiefs. But the Chiefs have had a week and a half to prepare.
I'm starting to get a little nervous that the Chiefs aren't going to be playing too many backups.
They're probably only going to play 2. I mean, not play 2. Everybody else is playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
And there was one horrible game. What was the one where Mahomes got hurt? You were probably still playing, and the Broncos lost to the Chiefs. Was it Chad Henne or Matt Moore?
Yeah, that's when he injured his knee, right?
Yeah.
But we were already down.
Yeah, that's true.
A good amount at that point.
That makes it better.
Real quick, you do have before we go into the AFC West picks. These are the standings. Henry at 34-14. Zach at 33-15. One game behind. Todd 27-21. And Ryan's at 25-22.
Wow,
Very nice.
How is he catching us? That makes me a little bit upset. I'm still going to beat Zach. Yeah, that Chiefs game, I'm curious how many starters. Because one of the things Adam Troutman said yesterday was that they don't really expect them to play at least too many backups. They probably will play their starters at least through the first half. Because the thing is, if the Chiefs wanted to, they could just rest their starters this week. Like, it's already locked up. So they kind of decide they've got 2 games to play guys as much as they want. And kind of the X factor to me is that now they've got Marquise.
When did the Chiefs play?
Oh, no, they already played.
Yeah,
they played Christmas. That was this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they only have the one left, which means they have the long week before the Chiefs.
They have a long
before
week.
The Broncos.
Then they have a bye.
Yeah.
You're not going to want guys to sit out too much.
No.
They're probably going to play them.
No. In the NFL, there's only so much you can sit guys. Like, you've got 53 on the team. You can use 2 from the practice squad. Yep. So realistically, you go through, like, what? You've got probably 4 running backs on the roster. You could probably rest one if you wanted. You could rest Pacheco, but they still got P-Run. They've still got Kareem Hunt. Like, you're still seeing a bunch of those guys. Those receivers, you probably got 5 or 6. You know, if you wanted to, you could give Hopkins a day off. You probably wouldn't give Marquise Brown a day off because he's
coming back.
You're trying to work him back into things. But I don't think that game is going to be as easy as people seem to think it's going to be. Which is,
and the preparation doesn't change. Like, Andy Reid
True.
is still coaching that team and trying to win a football game.
And he would want to win so badly with the backup quarterback, with Carson Wentz.
Yeah. They would go 16-1.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a season.
Yeah. Well, that makes me a little bit scared for this one. Let's go straight into these AFC West picks now. I guess we already had the Chiefs game. Okay. I told Zach the Chiefs are going to win. I'm not sure if we're doing it. He'll figure out the numbers later. Let's see. I've got the Bengals. You've got the Broncos. RK's got the Broncos, and Zach has the Bengals. The Chargers play at the Patriots. Zach and RK both have the Chargers.
I'm taking the Chargers, too.
You got to take the Chargers.
Yeah.
The Patriots seem like they're so close, Like you watch them play, and there's plenty to like. I mean, what they kind of had the Bills on the ropes last week, right?
Yep.
Like made them think about it at least. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots win, but you just have to pick the Chargers. And then the last one, Raiders at Saints. Zach and RK both have the Saints. What do you think?
I don't know. This is gonna have a toss up. I don't think with the Raiders winning last week, I thought they were tanking for the number 1 pick, but maybe they're just not aware that that's available.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just playing football right now, and the Saints don't look good at all.
Derek Carr has been upgraded to questionable for this week, though.
Yeah, I mean, if Derek Carr plays, they're gonna win. But if Spencer Rattler plays, they're not.
Also,
gonna
the Saints got shut out we're the first team this season to get shut out.
win.
Yeah. Which is crazy it took that long.
Yeah.
No shutouts in the first 2.5 months of the season.
And they almost happened twice
3.5.
yesterday, or twice this week.
Yeah.
Because they don't get that safety, then
They got their
Texas-
2.
Yeah.
That's so embarrassing. That's worse than the Broncos did, right? That was 34-2. Broncos were 41-10. So they lost by 32. Broncos only lost by 31.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little win.
Small win. Give me the Raiders.
I'll take the Raiders also. I think even if Derek Carr plays, I guess you got to take him. But I like the Raiders' chances against Derek Carr better than I like the Saints' chances without Derek Carr. If that makes any sense, probably doesn't. We'll hit this last ad break before we get out of here and give a shout out to our friends over at
The Primos.
the Primos. Yes. Primo Hoagies. We love all the things that they do, including make sandwiches. I finally branched out the last tailgate. Those first, what would that be? First like 7 tailgates maybe. I was only eating the turkey sandwich because it was really good. I had it the first time. I was like, that's a great yeah, sorry with the hand. Yeah, I love that sandwich, and so I just wasn't willing to try any others. This time I finally had the Italian sandwich. Also really, really good. So I think I might be just going with that one for a while. My girlfriend's not back from Christmas until Sunday. I might have to stop by Primo Hoagies on the way home.
Get some meat.
Yeah, I think I need to go get some meat. Primo Hoagies is awesome. They're at our tailgates, like I said. You can check them out all over town, though, including right here in Centennial. They won USA Today's Best Sandwich Shop back-to-back years, 2023, 2024. They bake their bread daily. All sorts of perks, including a special right now where you can take advantage of a mouth-watering deal. Grab their special combo, 1 Primo-sized hoagie, a 1-ounce bag of chips, a 20-ounce drink, all for just $15.99. Don't miss out. Swing by Primo Hoagie Centennial today. Treat yourself to the perfect lunch meal.
And shout out to our friends over at Raising Cane's. When your mark is set, eat. Make a pit stop at Raising Cane's for craveable hand-battered chicken fingers. They're always cooked to order and made just for you. Race in for delicious chicken finger meals served up fast. You can order tender chicken fingers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, and buttery Texas toast. And don't forget the creamy coleslaw and secret cane sauce. For cook-to-order, hand-battered chicken fingers, race into Raising Cane's, turbocharge your chicken fingers, and get them even faster by ordering online at raisingcanes.com or through their mobile app. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love.
Actually, I might need to be going to Raising Cane's. Those sound really good, too. This is the DNVR Broncos Podcast, presented by Bet365. Also, it's the Toyota Lounge. All right. If the Broncos don't win this game, what went wrong?
The weather.
Oh.
And defensively, we weren't able to stop Joe Burrow.
Yeah. I'm curious. This is a big test. I guess I mentioned this before, but it seems like the Broncos are probably just running it back with the secondary next year.
Yes.
Which makes sense because there's no reason to replace any piece of it. But I will say there have been moments where I've been left wanting more. The Chargers obviously being the best example. Of course, no Riley Moss, it changes things. But with Riley back, I really want to see the secondary do the things that it was doing, a couple months ago.
Yeah.
When he was playing. And that probably will happen, but I do feel just a little bit nervous about how this secondary matches up against the Bengals.
What are you nervous about? I mean,
Speed,
the Chargers,
mostly.
The Chargers We didn't play our greatest game, but their leading receiver had 87 yards. Like
That's true.
We
And he
didn't
was
get-
kind of the only receiver.
Yeah, so I think we've done good over the course of the entire season. And then when you talk about this team, this is probably the best passing threat we've faced all
Yeah.
year long. But we have really good DBs, and if they're all back and they're all healthy, I'm not nervous. I'm excited to see how they perform. But I think ultimately between the secondary and Vance Joseph, and also our ability to rush the quarterback, them lacking efficient tackles on offense, I think all that, put that all together, it makes me optimistic for our defense against their offense.
I think so too. They do have. It's weird speed that they have. Obviously, Jamar Chase is fast. T. Higgins is a big body guy. But after that, with Andre Yoshivas and then Mike Gesicki, those are big guys who can move. And I think that the weakness probably of the Broncos secondary, and it's always tough to say things like this when you have Pat Surtain out there, is just like the combine testing type stuff, which doesn't always matter, but just like the size and speed combination. Brandon Jones, he's been a really good player. He's not like the biggest guy out there. PJ Locke, really good player, not like the biggest, fastest type guy. That's where I worry a little bit. Jaquan, again, just not the fastest type guy. That's why they were able to get him as an undrafted free agent. And that stuff doesn't always matter. There are ways to mitigate it. Never matters.
Never matters.
I just worry against a team that's packed with like Andre Yoshivas, who's what, like 6'4" track star. Like, it's just a tough matchup, I think.
It is, but what's their record?
Worse than the Broncos.
So I'm saying all that size and height and ability has gotten them to, what are they, 7-8? They're 8-8 right now?
Yeah.
7-8.
It'd be 7-8. Yep. Need 2 more wins.
With all that intangibles, like every team has that. And I think nothing matters more than the dog. I think if you look at the entire roster, nobody is besides Pat, nobody's a standout All-American, 6'7". No, we don't have any of those players. But at the same time, we got 2 players that are being talked about as Defensive Player of the Year. We got a D tackle who is playing at an elite level. We have a second corner who is playing at a really high level. We got a nickel corner that's out there balling. Like, who cares? I really don't care about that intangible. Maybe it's because I was an undrafted free agent myself. But I can look out there and see a dog, and it could be, Calais Campbell, or it could be a Shaq Barrett. Like,
yeah, it's true.
Those are both dogs, 2 completely different body types.
Yep. No, that's a good point. And the more I think about it, the more when things haven't gone well for the Broncos secondary, it's usually communication. Like, it's not talent.
Yeah.
It's rare that you're just seeing guys getting burned or not able to keep up through the break.
Well, there was that one game, but
there was that one game, but we don't talk about that one game. That one, again, that's one where the speed really got you. But yeah, it probably does come down just to the coverage bust and the communication, just making sure they're in the right spot, which again, it just hasn't been the case as often without Riley. And with Riley back, you expect it back. But I also wouldn't be surprised if there are a couple of hiccups just because he hasn't played in so long.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say it's probably not going to be perfect, but ultimately I think it's going to be good enough.
Yeah, I think so too. Then offensively, if things go wrong for the Broncos, what is that? What goes wrong offensively if things go wrong?
Nothing can go wrong. Nothing.
Just because expectations are so low?
Expectations are low, but also this team is bad.
Oh, okay.
This team is bad. Like, it's a bad defense.
It is a bad defense.
They got one outside linebacker that you got to block.
Yep.
And we have good enough tackles to even block him one-on-one. Outside of that, man, have your way. Put together a good game plan. Go out there and score 30 points. Like, we can definitely do that against this team.
Right, run it on the sheet twice this time so you really don't forget.
So I'm not even going to talk about ways that the offense could be bad, because I'm not accepting anything less than 27 points.
Okay.
We have to, right?
I mean, you would think.
Like,
the rain is the one thing that's kind of in my mind.
But it's also, they should have done that multiple times and they struggled. Without the defense helping them.
That's true. But this week, I mean, shout out to Strez. They talk about the Raiders put up 24 points. Like,
That's
Come
true.
on, guys.
That is true. I mean, you should be able to do whatever you want, and I'd imagine that means you run the ball a bunch, because if you can just run the ball for 5 yards a pop every single time, how could you say no to that? You know.
Can we do that?
I really hope if you can't do it this week, then I don't know when you can do it.
All right.
Last week.
Yeah, and they did in the first half. It was like 6.8 yards per carry in the first half, and then they
Yeah.
kind of got away from it in the second. It was like 2.3 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, even that one, it felt like they had the 2 back-to-back runs, went for a loss of 1 yard, and then they just stopped calling runs. And they had plenty of opportunities. The last drive, they had to throw the ball. The one before that, though, when they're down 3, have to go length of the field with 5 minutes left. You can run the ball in that situation. In fact, you'd probably prefer to. So Sean just needs to stick with it, because it's one of those things. And this is something that Jeff Legwold talks about a lot from ESPN, but he's totally right when he says, if a play caller calls, 3 passes in a row that are all incomplete, doesn't care, passing the rest of the game. You have 2 runs that don't work, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we can't run the ball. We've got to stop. We've got to give it up. And that just can't keep happening.
Yeah, we got to commit to it. It can't be something that we get hot and cold with. It's just important to keep it going. So we'll see.
Are you feeding Audric in the running game this week, or Javonte played maybe his best game of the season too?
Yeah, I think you give him majority of the carries, especially in a wet game like this. I just need him to hold on to the football.
That's true.
If he could do that, he deserves more carries, but
That's true.
can't
I think
need no fumbles.
the Chargers game was the first time that I didn't even think about the fumbles. Because every other time he'd gotten the ball up until that point, every time I was thinking, please hold on to the ball, please hold on to the ball. But I that's when they get you, is right when you think that they've got it figured out. But if he looks like not only the Broncos' best running back right now, and the margins might be pretty close because they just have different skill sets, but also he does what you want them to do, like the style of running, the power running, the double teams, and just plowing straight ahead. I think that's what this team has to be about at this point in the season, because as much as the goal is to make it to the playoffs, you'd love to go on a run there. And I think the formula for the Broncos going on a run is running the ball really, really well and just kind of winning time of possession and kind of sustaining long drives, finding points. I don't know that I believe that they're capable of that after just one game, but at least there's a little bit of momentum. And I think that this is a great week to just pound the rock with Audric, lean into that identity, and see if you can kind of get him going as you get into this last few games.
Let's try it. I mean, it's worked well when we've been consistent with it. So I'm not saying it's going to help us make a run in the playoffs, but I think it'll help us make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if that's our goal, I think we should, utilize him, and probably give him a majority of the carries right now at this moment.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
What?
Who has more to lose? Who has more at stake, the Broncos or the Bengals this weekend? And
That's a tough one.
And it's like, because you got to look at it like the Bengals are supposed to be Super Bowl contenders. Broncos
Yeah.
are ahead of schedule. Like, who really has more pressure on them?
The thing
I
about
think the Broncos.
yeah.
Because if the Bengals come back and make it to the playoffs, they've been doing like catch-up work for a long time in the season. But the Broncos have put themselves in position for the past 3 weeks to make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs, that's a huge loss, even though we're above or ahead of schedule. The Bengals, they have pressure, but their pressure is all defensively. Like, they have every piece they need to be successful offensively. Their defense just can't stop anybody. So that's their problem. And because that's the problem, I don't think that's something that you could fix right now anyway. That's something you got to fix in the offseason. And so if they were even to just revamp their defense next year, they're a Super Bowl contending team again. So I think they have a little bit less pressure because they just need to fix one side of the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing with the Bengals is, like, they're eliminated if they lose.
Yeah.
Even if they win, they probably aren't getting in because they need to win again, and the Broncos need to lose. and I think the Dolphins and Colts would both have to lose a game. So like they would still need so much to go right that they still have to feel like it's such a long shot. Maybe not in the locker room, but the fans and kind of the media. To them, the season's kind of been done for a month, and this is a nice little push to try to get something back. But yeah, I agree. But if the Bengals miss the playoffs, it's going to upset a lot of people. It'll be a massive disappointment just considering they were considered a Super Bowl contender, but there won't be huge changes, I don't think, because the offense is working and that's kind of what you've invested in. That's what you're building around. Like you just need to build that defense up, like you said. So I don't think the consequences aren't there.
It's just not on offense.
Exactly.
Definitely
like
on
nobody's
defense.
saying like, can Joe Burrow do it?
No.
Like, can you really give T. Higgins the contract? Or can you give Jamar that contract? Like, you kind of have that all set up. Broncos, though, again, people, unlike in Cincinnati, people a couple weeks ago thought the playoffs were kind of a lock.
For the
know?
Broncos.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden you start to look at it and it feels scary. I haven't looked at those percentages in a while.
We're still like almost 80%.
Is it that high? Yeah.
But yeah, because I mean, it wasn't just that they were locked. Like there was conversations about whether you're going to be the 5th or the 6th seed.
Yeah.
Like there was ways for the Broncos
that
to
was
move
fun.
up. And now if they don't win this game, it's like they're one loss away from not making that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because they were 2 games ahead
Yeah.
of everybody, and they beat the Colts. Like, yeah, they just control their own destiny. If they have to win this game. I think it's important because I don't want to put it all on the Chiefs and
No,
get scary.
I hadn't thought about that. Just how dark things would get if they don't make it. You should probably end things on a more positive note. But it does like, what was it? Was that 2008 or 2009 when they were 8-4 and missed? I think 2016 might have been 8-4. But yeah, more positive note. Again, just flipping around why the Broncos should win. Defensively, like what goes right? Is it just shut down the passing game?
Yeah, I think if they can just handle Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Gesicki, like they'll find a way to win this game. It's not rocket science. You don't have to be scared of their rushing attack. You got to be solid in it, but I think first and foremost you got to stop them and their ability to pass the football. I
almost think that you have to try to contain Burrow. Like a lot of the time, you look at guys like him and say like, this is a game where you're trying for sacks. Like you need Benito to go in there, but he gets rid of the ball so quickly, and when he doesn't, he's so good at just finding little outlets, finding ways to get out of the pocket and open up a throwing lane. This might be one where you go more contain and say like, we're going to cover and kind of collapse more than just try to get through.
You just want to find open runners in the middle of the line. Like that's where you start your concepts. Like on Thursday, like our blitz packages, I think they come from more the interior than the exterior. Like keep him in the pocket, and if we do get to him, we want to have the O-line slide to the left. We bring a blitzer from the right and make it more of a condensed pocket pressure than it is, slanting everybody and bringing a corner or a safety off the edge. That's how I would do it.
Yeah.
That way you keep pressure in his face.
So do you run more like stunts and games, that sort of stuff in the middle? Because those can kind of open up space, but at the same time, if you plan them right.
Yeah, and it's very detail oriented. Like I'm not running a game to totally move my 3 technique out of the way. He's more so like reading from A to A, but he's still an inside presence player while that linebacker blitz is in the B gap. So we're not shifting too much to where it's more of a straight rush for everybody, minus like 2 players.
Yeah. Huh. I like it. I'm not sure if you've watched. Is that how people have defended the Bengals? That's a big question for somebody who covers the Broncos. Yeah, for sure. I thought it was worth a try. It was worth a try. Wow. Any other deep insights like that?
No.
Defensively?
I'm out of them for today.
We're out.
It's a Friday.
Do we have any super chats, Yaya? Do we have any good questions? We got 45 seconds. I thought Joe Burrow was ass, Henry. Yeah, I should have just expanded to Bengals. All this would be right. At the same time, it's like, I think I still kind of stand by all the things that I believe. Like Joe Burrow's good. He makes plays outside the pocket. Like I said, like he has some of that. Being able to feed good receivers is a skill. You know, you can't say like Peyton Manning was bad because he had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. Like that's not how it works. But I do think that he really has been helped out having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Mike Gesicki. And as much as, again, the goal is to win football games.
Yep.
And I haven't watched every Bengals game. I can't say like, oh, I had the ball. He had a chance to go win it. But as bad as the defense has been, that's the reason why they're losing. I don't have any regrets about saying that a 7-8 quarterback is maybe not one of the 3 best in the NFL.
What? Have you seen his numbers?
I've seen the numbers. Give me Lamar, give me Mahomes, give me Josh Allen.
I mean, yeah. If you look at his numbers, his team should easily be number 1 in the division. And
if they are next year and they're going on a Super Bowl run, then sure.
He's already taken them on a Super Bowl run. He didn't win it, but he took them on a Super Bowl. He's the only quarterback outside of Tom Brady to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs.
It's a niche stat, but again, it was years ago. Like,
please don't do that.
Well,
if you're going to take Josh Allen, who loses to Patrick Mahomes every time in the playoffs.
Yeah, but I mean, I think
who's had way better defenses.
You take Burrow over Josh Allen?
I'm saying they've had the same amount of talent on offense. Okay. And then then Josh Allen has had way better defenses every single year.
That's true.
So he's had a better team.
Yeah. That's fair. I think
Joe Burrow has taken his team further.
He has. But it's not like he's won a Super Bowl. Like, he got
He's
there.
Been there.
He got there. That's good. What if Josh Allen does it this year? Is that what you need to see?
What are we talking about? What ifs for? Let's talk about what happened.
I'm just saying, like, if you watch the 2 guys, I think this year, right now, you got to win 1 game. Give me Josh Allen.
All right.
Todd disagrees. Oh, yeah, super chat. Can you scroll up a little bit?
Somebody said, "Oh, Henry."
Oh, Henry, that's a candy bar. This is from Nash. Bo is going for 250 plus passing yards and 2 touchdowns. He's going for the rookie record. Oh, yeah, there's like a streak of 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I guess he did. No, because he didn't have 250 the week before. Oh, it's just the most games. Okay. That'll do it for today. You guys will be live tomorrow, pregame, postgame, so hang out with Todd and the boys.
Yeah.
And there's a watch along. I'm doing a watch along. He's
watching along.
Okay. There will be conversations. Okay. Join us for a watch along tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.